Hello and welcome to Matt and Mike Pull Focus. I'm Mike.
And I'm not.
And today we're going to be joined by Leah Hather, a film critic in a past life similar to Matt and myself, and our former colleague at a cinema chain that shall remain nameless. Firstly, Leah, thank you for joining us here today. Did you think this is where we'd be 5 years ago when we all met?
No, not at all. We've all gone on some mad journeys, haven't we?
We sure have.
You had a quite successful film podcast, film review channel, I should say, right?
At the time, yes, I'd pretty much say it was doing all right. But
yeah.
Obviously times have changed, and I started that a long time ago, so I can't even remember the years. This is how old I'm getting. I can't remember. I can't remember years anymore. I just remember little moments, little snippets. But I started doing that a few years after YouTube just started, so it was quite an easy market to get into. Basically, there was only like a few people around doing movie reviews. It was a bit of a weird thing to do. It wasn't classed as what would be now like quite prestigious, you know, like everyone wants to be a movie critic now, but back then people would watch you going, what are you doing? Like, so and back then as well, there wasn't that many female British YouTubers, you know, in terms of talking about movies. So I kind of had my little niche. But then obviously as it grows, it gets harder. And but yeah, I did that for years until I decided to go into retirement.
That's fair. But the passion for film still remains. Yeah,
definitely it does. And I think it was all about, it's hard work, as you guys know. You know, it's for me, I was on YouTube with my face, so not just a podcast. Yeah, like right now, like, you know, people don't know I'm just sat here in a dressing gown in my cozies. But as on YouTube, you know, I had to, you know, get dressed up, you know, I had to put a bit of makeup on just to sort of make my
It's a whole extra layer of effort and also kind of self awareness, isn't it? You've got to be kind of like, because we're just purely concerned with voice and how we sound, and we might sort of criticize ourselves over that. However, did you get quite critical of, you know, I don't know, what you were wearing, what you looked like? Was that a big part of it? Or
yeah, I think it's one of those things where I wasn't so much critical of myself because I just got on with it, but then you start to see this flood of very odd people and quite awful people as well, but also nice people. Like, I'm not just saying that the internet world is full of awful people, but I used to get all sorts of comments. I think my favourite one was, I just got a comment one day that was like, "What's wrong with your face?"
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, okay. Like, and because I'm British, so I used to get the teeth comment a lot.
Right.
And I find my teeth all right. I had a brace when I was young, so I've got like vampire teeth. I've got some fangs, so I was quite impressed by that, because I always quite fancied looking like Kate Beckinsale. So, you know, it's like, but you had to really get a thick skin because people
did that get easier with time, or did that get like, did it become sort of, you know, almost like water off a duck's back after a while, or did it get worse?
I think you have good and bad days. I'd like to say I got to the point where, my skin was incredibly thick. I just kind of looked at the comment, laughed it off, and just went, oh, whatever. But it got bad when you, as a female YouTuber, you would get objectified completely. I've been told that as well. I've been put on porn sites, like, which is bizarre. Like, so someone has just got my movie review and stuck it up on a porn site, and it's like, well, why would anyone want to? Like, I can't get my head around that, because I'm a little bit like, I'm there just talking about, like, I don't know why big fish came into my head.
Because it's like the least sexual thing.
I was going to say,
but you know,
that's got to be weird, though, hasn't it?
So British woman talks about big fish, and that was the name of it. Oh my god!
So, you know, it's like, and that was going on, but like at the end of the day, I mean, it was giving me hits. So But no, it was very, very odd. It was very strange. And then I'd get all these comments. It was usually just like, boobs, I'm here for the boobs. And it was all about my boobs. And I was just like, this is not why I'm doing it. You know, if I was doing it...
I'm also talking about films, boys.
Exactly. And I was very serious about it. I mean, you guys know, well, you knew me as such, and you probably still do, sort of thing. But like, I am a quite jokey person. I'm always very smiley. And even though when I was taking my film reviews seriously, I'd like to put a bit of a quirky spin on it, because that's what I am, you know. I am the weird one as such. So
that's why I got on with you when we first met. I remember sort of gravitating towards you because I just knew there was something else going on.
Yep,
you know,
she's weird.
She's weird in the best possible way.
I definitely remember like one of our first shifts together when we used to work in the cinema was, I think I was talking about the Swedish Chef from the Muppets.
Oh
and
my
that
gosh.
was like 8 hours on one floor, like tidying up after other people's rubbish and just talking about Swedish Chef. And I just got on with it, and we had like great like kind of similarities in film taste as well.
I remember that you said, isn't it really funny to say Shia LaBeouf as
the Swedish Chef.
Yeah. I have never forgotten that, and I will have days where I'm actually feeling a little bit low, or I don't know, just my mind's a bit crazy and I need to go for a walk. And honestly, I'm not lying here, my brain will just go Shalabu.
Oh yeah, I've had an impact on your life. That's nice to know.
You've had such an impact on my life. So yeah, it's honestly, I do remember that shift, and we cracked. We'd gone on that one, hadn't we?
It was a very rough shift, yeah.
I've got a really nice memory of like maybe 2 or 3 shifts in with you. You mentioning the Tom Hardy story, and me saying like, and you saying something like, it's kind of a long story, and it's like, dude, we've got like 10 hours. Like, so just tell me the longest possible, version of this story. And it didn't disappoint, actually. It was very, very, it stuck with me. And I have to say that I associate you. Yeah, can you tell us the medium version?
The
that would be
medium
wonderful,
version. Oh
please.
gosh, right. Well, I'll tell you
For the listeners, this is great,
I'll tell you
guys.
as much as I can, and if it gets too long, just cut me off. I love the fact that you were like, we've got 10 hours, you can tell this story. And it probably did take that long, because we were probably serving guests in between. And then when they went away, we were like, where was I at? Yeah, so the Tom Hardy story goes that when I was 21, I think, I had just done a night shift at a well-known toy store that is no longer existent. So I was, as you can imagine, absolutely shattered. And my parents whipped me off to a place called Scunthorpe. Now, we live near Doncaster way, so it's a good 40 minutes. And so I was dying, basically, to cut the story short. Like, I'd been awake for 24 hours and felt like death. So we end up in this garden centre cafe, and we're sat there, and they're like, we're here because you're getting I think it was your Christmas present. I was like, oh, okay. And it was from a family friend. And I was like, okay, so where is he? And they're like, he's not here yet. He's bringing your present. I was like, okay. All of a sudden, hustle and bustle, everything starts going crazy. Everyone in the cafe is going absolutely bonkers. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, am I dreaming at this point? Like, I just didn't know. And my dad just goes to me, do you not recognise the guy with the beard? And I was like, what is he on about? And I'm trying to find our family friend, thinking I'll figure this all out when I find him. And then I start looking for this guy with the beard, and I clocked him. And I wish I could show you visually, but imagine you're sat on a chair and you just lose all control of your body. Then I continued to have a fight with my brain going, that's Tom Hardy. Why is Tom Hardy in Scunthorpe of all places? What is happening right now? he comes all the way up to me, and I'm like slumped in this chair, like paralyzed, and he just says, "Hi, Leah."
Yep. So it's all eyes on you, basically.
Yeah,
it's like everyone is there for you and for Tom Hardy, basically.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was there for Tom Hardy. They weren't there for me, but all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, this young girl's about to meet Tom Hardy, and she doesn't know. This is going to be a blast." So he was so sweet. He was such a darling, because he could see that I was having this like heart attack and just panicking inside, but also lost all control. Like, and he just held me and just like, I can't remember. Like, yeah, he was so adorable. He held me, and our family friend had bought a DVD for me of Bronson. But made it out like it was my DVD. So he was like, "Oh, this is Leah's DVD. Can you sign it?" And I'm like, "Well, that's not my DVD. What's that? I don't cannot say words." So it was just, yeah, from the get-go, I just made a complete fool of myself. And he signed it. And then my mum had brought Wuthering Heights, so he signed that. And then he took so many pictures with me. I was like, he took one picture and I went, "Okay, I think that might be enough." And he was just like, "No, don't be silly." And he gets hold of my hip and bashes me back into him. It's like, "No, we best get more just in case. You never know."
Were you doing that thing where you're trying to get rid of them because you feel like you're keeping them?
Yes.
Yeah, I do that. I've only met a couple of people, but I've always been like, "Just go now." I'm surely I'm keeping you from your life.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry that you're even in my presence. Yes. Like, just go now. I must smell. Like, fuck off. It's it's weird. Like, it's
got even
Can I just ask you though? What did he smell of cologne and
what
leather?
What did he smell of? First question.
That's kind of what I imagine that he smells like. Yeah, I imagine, the smell of those like country jackets that's kind of like a leathery, musky smell mixed with Old Spice. That's how I picture it. I haven't thought about this much.
I really wish I can remember what he smelled like, but I can't. Because I think, like I said, my body shut down. So even my nose was probably just like, "No, you're having none of this, Leah." Like...
Is this post Bane? Is this kind of like 2013?
No. This is before that. This,
way before.
This is post Bronson, pre-Inception and pre-Bane. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bronson was what, 2008?
8.
I'd say
8 sounds right.
Yeah.
Hang on. So I'd have just graduated. So 2009. Yeah.
Right.
2009.
So it would have been pre-Inception and pre everything else.
So he was like normal. Like,
so he was kind of like thin Hardy.
Yeah, he was just thin. It wasn't even like just yeah. I don't know, like, no, because I
your mum grabs his arm.
I class thin Hardy as like, when he was really young in like his 20s, and he really was like a stick. Whereas
on The Big Breakfast, looking like a model.
Yeah.
Or was it Star Trek Nemesis?
Oh God, yeah.
No, he was a bit more.
Not so good,
that.
Al.
He was a bit. He was. I tell you what, he was, because he was he was doing filming on it. He was This Means War.
Oh really?
That's where he was. Wow. Yeah, that's what his physique was.
That's very pre-famous.
All muscle then.
Hardy.
All sinew. Yeah.
I absolutely loved and adored him. So I was just like, and then this reporter came up, and he clearly doesn't like reporters. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't know this for a fact, people.
No, that's been proven. That's been proven.
I met him for like 10 minutes. So, this reporter comes up and he's like, I went to go do an American accent then. Like, I don't know, like, I imagine all reporters like, "Hey,
where
Tom,
are you?
The paparazzi.
I need to get an article with you." No, we were in Scunthorpe, so they probably spoke not like that.
That's like the least American place on the planet.
I really don't want to slag off Scunthorpe. I'll have people after me. So, and he just shooed them away. He was like, "No." I was like, "Oh." He was just like, "No, I am not coming to you. You go outside where you belong. I'm here to meet Leah, and this is what I'm doing. So you can wait, and I'll be with you in a sec." And then he turns to me and he apologizes, and I'm like, It's okay. I just didn't know what was happening.
So you saw the sort of like the Bronson eyes coming out, just the like sort of serious. Oh my God.
He was like, "No, I'm having none of this." And then he turned to me, and then all of a sudden he was like Casanova, and I was just like, "Oh my God," like
wilting.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm so important. I mean more than a reporter."
I've always loved Tom Hardy because of I really don't have a handle on him at all. I don't know who he is, and I think that's what kind of gives him a bit of a mystique to me, is that obviously all of his roles are completely different, and he's like a chameleon in that respect, which is great, for an actor. But even in in interviews and stuff, he sounds different in every interview that he does, and he seems to have a different demeanor.
Yeah, he's a very private.
I mean,
person,
obviously and obviously you're describing, he sounds really cool and humble and like down to earth. But...
Yeah, humble. He was a gentleman, absolutely. And then he was quite cheeky, actually, because when he went to leave, he went, "I'm really sorry, I do have to do this. It's part of the gig. It was really lovely to meet you." And then he went to do that thing where, when you kiss someone on both cheeks. He went to do that, but he kind of was a little bit cheeky and did it more on the lips. And that's when I nearly just went straight down to the floor, and luckily my dad was behind me to grab me, because I was just like, But then what gets me out of all of this is there was these two old women that were behind me, and I'm shaking like mad because he's walked off at this point and everything. And they tapped me on the shoulder and went, "Oh, we've been waiting for this." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's nice. I'm glad, I'm trying to make conversation with them now, dittering idiot. That's nice that you like Tom Hardy." And they were like, "Oh, we just wanted to see your reaction." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And they were like, "Isn't he wonderful in the Kleenex adverts?" And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Are you
Did Tom Hardy do Kleenex adverts?
Yeah, he does it where he's sat with the dog, and I think it's Kleenex or... anyway, he's sat there with his dog on the sofa and he's crying. He's just watching something on TV and he's just crying, and then he blows his nose. But that was
I don't remember them
2009. Yeah. That was when they were all on the TV.
Fair enough.
And I'm there getting really angry, "You've just waited to see Tom Hardy because he was in a Kleenex advert. He's done so much good stuff."
I thought you were trying to say they were tapping you on the shoulder, or tapping him on the shoulder, saying, "We're Leah too," or Spartacus or something.
"I'm Leah and so is my wife."
"I'm Leah and so is my wife."
Yes, everyone in the cafe is like, "I'm Leah."
Just to put a beautiful bow on this story, how the fuck did this come about? What's the
who knew who?
Yeah, so it helps to know that, doesn't it? So
this is the bow. Let's do it.
Our family friend, I say family friend. I don't know him, but I think my parents know him, and I don't want to make it out we're best buddies or anything, but basically we know someone that knew him. Because this is how he knows him, is because he got hired to be on Bronson as an advisor because he knew Bronson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So he was an advisor to Tom to say how, how to act, basically. This is how Bronson would have done it.
Right.
And then they became really good mates.
I once met Serge Tankian from System of a Down, and he held my hand as I was talking to him. And I mean, I kind of, can relate on the level where you kind of have an out of body experience, don't you? Where it's
Sorry, Matt, we've been friends for 6 years. How have you never mentioned that before?
I never tell you this story.
You've never told me that story.
Right,
it's one of our favourite shared bands, and you've never told me you met the lead singer.
I'm really sorry, dude. I'm sure I must have told you. Maybe we were just pissed at the system night. Who knows?
Have you seen my face?
Yeah. Okay, very short version, because this is Leah's
Sorry,
show.
Leah. I didn't mean to just take things away from you then. Okay,
so Serge Tankian did a tour in 2007. It was just after System, 2 years after System released Mesmerise and Hypnotise. Serge went solo for the first time. He supported the Foo Fighters, and I went to see him with the Foo Fighters in Manchester. A few months later, he came back to Manchester to do his own show at the Academy, and I didn't bother getting a ticket because I thought, I've already seen him. He was great, but been there, done that sort of thing. I can live without this. My mates went to the show, and they called me and said, "Dude, Serge is about to come to the back of the Academy to sign. Get here quick." So I got a taxi straight down.
Wow.
And waited in line without anything to sign. I just went down there. I got to the front of the queue. It took ages, it was an hour. And he took my hands in his and pulled me closer. And I said, "I'm really sorry, but I don't have anything for you to sign." And he said, "That's okay. A handshake is more important."
Aww.
"What's your name?" And I said,
Serge,
"Matthew," and he went, "Hey, I'm Serge." And I was like, and he just spoke to me like that. But like, yeah, I know who you are.
I know who you are.
And that's so true, though, what he said. It's so true. Like, everyone always scrambles for autographs, but I could have lived without that autograph from Tom Hardy. Like, I didn't need that. Like, the experience of just meeting him was just enough for me. Like, and it's so true. The fact that you got that handshake, it's just, you've stayed with that. That's in your memory.
Yeah, exactly. As that hug from Tom Hardy, I'm sure you can still feel right now, and the smell of the Old Spice, which I imagine.
Definitely Old Spice.
And the leather. Yeah.
So as well as Tom Hardy, did you have any crushes on any other actors?
Oh, loads. I had loads. My all-time one that I always stay with is Hugh Jackman, obviously. But the transition before I went to Tom Hardy, before that was Gerard Butler. But before Gerard Butler, it was Ewan McGregor.
What a coincidence. We are here to talk about your favourite film. Is that fair to say, favourite film?
Is it favourite film, or is it just one you wanted to talk about?
It's one of my favourites. I'm one of these that, like, you know, when people go, what's your favourite film? I'm like, don't ask me that. I can't ever give a favourite film, but definitely Moulin Rouge is up there.
Fantastic. It's in the top 3, is that fair to say?
Don't ask me that.
Okay.
She just said that. It's hard to say.
Top
You're
3,
giving me anxiety just talking about it, Matt.
Just say yes and we'll move on. I'm going to have that on my gravestone.
This is a bit of a milestone because it's our first musical that we're going to be speaking about on Matt and Mike Pull Focus. So thank you very much for breaking fresh ground with us.
That's okay. I was going to pick Strictly Ballroom because I absolutely love and adore Baz Luhrmann. But I thought I'd be kind because that might have been a little bit too much because it is quite absurd. So I thought I'd go a little bit more mainstream and went for Moulin Rouge.
Okay. So have you got like a fantastic kind of memory about this, or hold a special place in your heart for a particular reason?
I think for me, growing up, because I think I would have been about 12 or 13, going into teenage years, I guess, when this came out, because I didn't see it in the cinema. I remember seeing it when it came out on VHS.
For the kids watching, VHS used to be before DVD.
Yes, I was still VHS at that age. However, I do have a memory of Moulin Rouge actually being one of my first DVDs that I bought.
Right.
Wow, that's great. It was released
and DVDs, children, are before Blu-rays.
Thank you for carrying
released
that on.
in 2001, I think it was. So that would kind of be like your Matrix, you know, Saving Private Ryan, South Park movie. These were kind of all the first run DVDs, and Moulin Rouge would be pretty shortly after that, wouldn't it? Like sort of in that kind of area. It's
20 years old now. Like that.
Oh God,
This is an anniversary podcast then, right?
It is, and that was accident. I didn't think. No, I thought that through. So I watched this again. So obviously I've watched it many, many times, but quite a while ago now. So it has been a long stint since I watched Moulin Rouge again. So now I'm like this older, wiser, experienced woman. Watching it again, I was like, this hasn't aged. This really holds up so well. And I was trying to imagine like what it must have felt like watching those visuals when I was younger and then watching them again now. And I was like, there are so many films out there that come out now that just do not look as good as this. Like, I was just honestly like super impressed by the visuals in this film. It's just so pretty.
I felt that on this rewatch too. Like, you know, that was one of its actually strongest sort of the elements. Really, was I'd forgotten how much of it was early CGI, but really good CGI in terms of the quick, you know, the fast cameras running through the city and the transitions and the editing. It's all heavily computer generated, but it, like you said, it still looks great, and it's just, he's got such a unique style, Baz Luhrmann. Like, there's no one else who could make a movie like that. You know, when you watch it, you think, I mean, maybe Terry Gilliam, it's kind of got Gilliam sort of like, you know, esque bits in it, but it is very much a Baz Luhrmann creation.
Well, I went down the rabbit hole with this. I ended up doing the commentary afterwards and doing all the extra bits because I was just like, oh, I loved that. That was so great. And I was surprised that with a lot of it, it's all models. It's all model work. Yeah, like, so I was surprised. And a lot of it is that they've gone old school and just created loads of different size models. So that they've got loads of different, they've just got an elephant chilling somewhere now. They had loads of different size elephant models, and then they would just fill in the bits like the night sky and, you know, Paris and stuff like that. But it was... there's just so many things I love about Moulin Rouge. I get to the point where I start going, I don't know what to say. But for me, what it was that I loved about Moulin Rouge is I love musicals. It's like my number one genre. After that is disaster movies, so don't judge me.
Eventually they will combine into the best film you'll ever watch.
Yeah, that's a genre that hasn't been explored.
Anna and Apocalypse. There you go. That's like
there is
a musical. One. It's a musical and a zombie film. So
I've never heard of that one. Wow. Okay.
There you go. It's quite a recent one as well. But yeah, with that, it's not to go down a whole history of musicals because that's like a whole another podcast. However, in a nutshell, each era in musicals really defines a certain way that they did things. So, you know, you go way back to like the 20s and the 30s, they kind of had that whole backstage musical where you are in a theatre and it's always about putting the show on in a theatre. And then it evolved throughout the years. So then you've got all that set of like... you know, all the 50s, kind of like your Oklahoma State
Guys
Fair.
and Dolls.
Yeah, and then 60s, you go into your Mary Poppins, your Sound of Music, and it's starting to become the norm that people just burst into song. Then all of a sudden in the 70s, we've just got like what's classed as like concert musicals. So you've got your like Tommy and, you know, Pinball Wizard, you know, all
Funny Girl.
That kind of stuff.
Is Funny Girl more 60s or 70s? I forget.
I think it's actually 70s.
It's made in the 70s, but I wouldn't say it's the same.
Star is Born.
Kind of caliber. I'd say Star is Born is more concert than, but yeah.
And then you've got the 80s, which just doesn't deserve a mention. Basically, all of a sudden they're releasing dance films and calling them musicals. So you've got Footloose, Fame, then Dirty Dancing. They're, to me, not musicals. Like, I absolutely love and adore them because they're dance films. I love dance. But to me, musicals is where you burst out into song and express how you feel, you know.
They're more kind of like needle
90s,
drop, aren't they? Like, kind of like, you know, where this music is incidental. Like, the music is on the soundtrack.
It's like Saturday Night Fever. Yeah. The soundtrack.
It's more like needle drop vibe, yeah.
Yeah, when I was growing up, musicals were like Annie or Oliver, and all the characters were singing instead.
Oh, shout out to Oliver. Oliver's fucking amazing.
So then you got 90s where you've got all this kind of like, they're trying their best, but it's not quite working. And then we got the noughties come along and we're starting to just get a little bit, but not quite there. And then bam, Moulin Rouge. And it was like, this is how you do it, guys. This is how we're going to bring back musicals. And then it brought musicals back to life. Not in a big, fantastic way that I would have liked it to. I would have loved a musical every year, but beggars can't be choosers. So Moulin Rouge opened that door for like, you've got Phantom of the Opera, Chicago and Chicago went on to win all those awards.
Yeah. Chicago.
And what?
Chicago.
I
think there's a
Matt's derailed you for a pronunciation joke. Bravo, Matt. Carry on.
One more time. Chicago.
Oh, brilliant stuff.
I thought you were naming another musical, and I was like,
I've never seen Chicago. It's a good one.
Quite fancy Chicago.
It's even better than Chicago. It's even better.
I could just get my pie and chips and eat that and watch Chicago.
Wow.
So yeah, it basically to me is like, it's not just a movie. It created a a door. It opened a door basically for many other musicals, and bless them, they're still trying, and it's getting there, and they're now starting to really churn them out. Obviously COVID's not helped matters, but we've got loads in the pipeline that are going to be coming out, and they're like, you know, wanting to recreate all the West End and Broadway, and it's great. And I think we have Moulin Rouge to thank for that. No,
I definitely agree. I doing like research in it, I didn't realize that it was nominated for Best Picture at the 2001 Oscars. And like you say, Chicago carried that, like took the torch and ran with it, and I believe won Best Picture the year after. And then like The Artist blew up in like 2007, 2008, whenever it was, or 2010 actually. Wait, I'm way off. But that won the Best Picture Oscar, and then La La Land nearly won, but missed out to Moonlight. Yeah. And they're the big four that stick in my mind in terms of the way the musicals have gone.
One of the movies that I think is really overlooked in the sort of musical genre, like, is South Park the movie. And I overlooked it myself, you know, as a kid, because what I always think is an amazing thing is that South Park the movie came out, we all watched it, we all loved it.
Yeah.
None of my friends, you know, young teenage boys ever said, "Oh, this is a musical, we're not watching this shit." You know, which would have been their sort of, you know, narrow-minded, you know, at that age, you know, you kind of like musicals are kind of, you know, lame and not something you watch. You're after your Matrix and your South Park, you know, you want something a little bit more edgy. What's great about it is no one noticed it was a musical because it was so fucking brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no kind of, I guess it was a parody in a lot of ways of musical numbers, you know, because it was the kind of the Les Mis. The Les Mis, yeah, there you go.
The Les Mis is just genius.
The medleys in that are amazing, yeah.
Like, I will always turn to that because I just think it is just absolutely fantastic. Like, it's up there with Les Mis. Like,
yeah, it's amazing, that medley. It actually gives me goosebumps. It's brilliant.
Honestly, it's so good. The music in South Park, like, is absolutely incredible. Like,
I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm glad you're a fan as well.
Yeah. No, I'm such a fan because I wouldn't say I'm huge on South Park. Like, I don't dislike it or anything like that. I'll watch it, but I was never crazy for it. But however, it was something that was in our childhoods, so it was around. But when the movie came out and I knew it was a musical, I was like, I'm there. Sign me up. Like, and every
it was a pull for you.
Oh, it was, definitely, yeah. I mean, I was the crowd going because it was a musical.
I was going to say,
it worked on both levels.
Yeah, you're both in the audience sat next to each other. Leah, you're there for the music, and Matt's there for the fart jokes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure Matt and Trey would have appreciated that.
It brought us two audiences together.
That's great. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It's but you know, I think with that, it was just so creative. And I think, again, you have to sort of highlight how creative Moulin Rouge was as well, because how many people can get together in a room? I mean, I say how many people, there must have been like 3 of them, because it was like Baz Luhrmann, Craig Pearce, and then the sound producer person. Sorry, I don't know his name. But how many people in the world can get together and create the playlist that they did? Like, it's just so creative. It's incredible, because I would sit there going, well, I like this song and I like this one and I like that one, and nothing would ever get done because I just couldn't choose. And the fact that they have just, when they do the medley in Moulin Rouge, it's just stunning. Like, I sting that to this day, by the way, just to let you know. Like, I will go around the house, I'll be cleaning, I'll be doing whatever, and I will just blast out that medley because it's just pure genius.
Yeah.
That's my wife's favourite scene, actually, is the medley on top of the elephant, you know, when they're singing. One of my, the moment that I realised that this was working, because as I had seen it several times before, it's not my favourite of the Baz Luhrmann films, I have to say. However, this time watching it, I think it's... You could think on paper like a jukebox musical is a little bit lazy. You know, it's like a kind of, you're taking music that is popular, so that's everyone's got invested in it already. It's pre-sold. But the way that they like meld the dialogue in with the music, and so for example, you know, when Jim Broadbent and Nicole Kidman are like getting dressed on the stage and they're doing that thing, there's a stage show going on. There's a song being sung by them, and they're talking to each other at the same time. That is no easy feat That's like, that's genius, like, you know, the way they do that. And I think that's what sells it, is like, if they were just standing on a stage singing Teen Spirit, you'd be like, oh, this is Pan, Jesus Christ, and what we're doing, you know, but it's nowhere near that. It's different, you know, it really, it works so much better than that. So I've got, I like it a lot for that.
What's beautiful about it is the fact that they have Christian, who is this poet, and he has to be the greatest poet that's ever lived to be able to put on this play, spectacular, spectacular. And how are you going to do that? How do you come up with the words to be the best poet that there ever is? You get all the other like artists from like way back when. I say way back when, it wasn't really way back when, but you know, like Elton John, you know, and Paul McCartney, and you get all of that. And like even going back to musicals as well, The Sound of Music is in there to show this is the greatest poet that there is. And I think it's such a great way to just put that into the script, to go, hey, look, he is the best poet because we're using all these popular songs that you know. And so it lets the audience know. It tells them, yeah, he knows his stuff because he's saying these lyrics that we all know. And I just think it's a beautiful way to show. And then speaking of which, I just absolutely love Christian as well. Let's say Christian, I love Ewan McGregor because in this, his vulnerability to me, like, because I've always been about the acting. Whenever I do film reviews, I always concentrate on acting more than anything. And I think it's because I once in a previous life was an actor. So Ewan McGregor in this film, I just think is extraordinary because he is just showing so much vulnerability. It's insane. And then opposite that, you've got Nicole Kidman, who was nominated for an Oscar for this film, by the way, as well.
Wow.
And much deserved, because she's incredible in this, in the sense of 1 minute she's giving you like comedy, pure comedy, like when she's in the elephant and she's trying to distract the Duke and she's doing all that like crazy stuff.
That scene
like,
is really good.
I want to dance.
I feel like dancing.
Like, yeah, and she's just like going bonkers, and even like Christian's like, what the hell are you doing? She's so funny. And then in the next scene, it's like, oh, just a reminder, she's coughing, she's not very well, like dun dun dun, you know. And
it goes dark really quickly. That's another thing that kind of occurred on this viewing, was that, you know, it's like 20 minutes in they do the tuberculosis thing, don't they, and like the coughing up the blood, and then all the lights go out and they make it really dark, so they kind of, the stakes are high like really early on, aren't they? You know, it's like we kind of know something's going to fuck up like super early, which is great because you're on the edge of your seat from then on.
Oh, exactly. I've always classed Moulin Rouge as a roller coaster ride because right from the get-go, obviously it starts and it's what I class as like a Shakespeare comedy. It's doing, the beginning isn't a comedy. It starts as tragedy, and then it'll go, oh, but let me take you back and show you the good old days. And then it's like, here's a comedy, and it'll play the farce, it'll play the comedy, and then it'll keep going down that Shakespeare line of then going, actually, we're now going to take you to tragedy. And I just love the fact that it then takes you between tragedy and comedy throughout the whole film. And that is all the way through. It doesn't stop for the 2 hours. Like, even when it's getting towards the end where, like, shit's getting real, you know, it still has the comedy element because it has the scene with Jim Broadbent and Richard Roxburgh where he sings like a virgin.
That is the best scene in the movie.
Everything's going wrong in that film and everything's awful and your heart's going, and you feel for everyone. And then all of a sudden they're like, let's stick some comedy in there. And it's like the fact that it can just take you between the two is just, I just think is just sublime.
Is there one movie that Jim Broadbent is just amazing in? I mean, he's just like one of the most underappreciated actors in so many ways. He just makes it look so easy.
I wish
Leah,
he was my granddad.
I know, he's just one of those characters. Isn't
he's probably old enough to be my dad. I don't know, but I wish he was in my family.
I think granddad at this point. I just want to bring it up because in terms of Baz Luhrmann movies, my particular love is for his outros. And are you familiar with The Great Gatsby and with Romeo and Juliet?
Yes, though it has been a while since I last saw Great Gatsby when it came out, and then Romeo and Juliet I've probably not watched since I was a teenager, to be honest.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I would say go back and watch them, because in my opinion they're the superior films in his catalogue. I just love them so much. And one of the elements and he has it in Moulin Rouge as well, his movies are so explosive and full of kind of energy and campness and fireworks and all this stuff, and very quick, fast editing. And then he always ends on a really melancholic note. Really solemn, really quiet, and in Romeo and Juliet, they zoom into the TV at the beginning. They have the Shakespeare dialogue. We zoom out of the TV at the end, and then Radiohead comes on, the exit music for a film.
He bookends it, doesn't he, with the TV?
Yeah. And it's like, not to get too philosophical, but it's kind of like life, man. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, you know, it's quiet, and then it's super loud, and then it's quiet, and then it's gone. And I know it sounds really kind of, you know, wax sort of philosophical, but that to me, that's what it feels like. You know, it's all this intense energy and stuff, and then it's gone. And I must say that I absolutely love him for that. I think that's one of the coolest things, and it's consistent in pretty much all of his movies. It's
incredibly brave. Well, he didn't do that in Strictly Ballroom.
I've never actually seen Strictly Ballroom, I have to say at this point. Sorry, I will watch that.
They all finish on a good salsa or samba. I can't quite remember, but yeah.
Oh, okay, it's not as downbeat then.
No. It's a very happy ending. But yeah, it's incredibly brave, and I find Moulin Rouge incredibly brave the way it ends. Like, I remember as a teenager, like when I feel like I can say what happens at this point. If you've not watched it in 20 years, then tough, innit?
Oh yeah, this is spoiler warning. Don't
worry. So obviously, it's then again it packs you up, and he's like, everything's wonderful. It's a really happy ending. We're singing our finale song. Everything's great. They're gonna get back together, and everything's wonderful. And then no, she takes a breath. She's dying. She's gonna die right there and then. And even that makes you do the same thing, because she does that thing where she goes, and then you go, and you're just like, no. And then everyone's watching, like they're suddenly the audience, and it becomes this brand new play that she's now dying in his arms. And the vulnerability you get from Ewan McGregor is incredibly raw. Back in my teenage years, I found it funny. So I show my true colours of what I was like when I was a teenager. He lets out this sound that back in the day I just found hilarious. He kind of does this thing where he goes, ah! And it's not very flattering.
It's a bit OTT, yeah.
And you're like, oh. But when I watched it again, now that I'm older, and as I said, a wiser, more experienced woman, I just sobbed my heart out. I was like, wow, the rawness out of that acting was just devastating. He just lets it all out, and I couldn't stop crying. And it's one of those where you're still crying, and it's like the end credits, and you're like, I can't. He had
to be
myself.
Like channeling something. Like he had to be channeling something really raw there. I think. Yeah, that's kind of like death of a grandparent or something like going on there. I think, you know, like because I agree. I remember finding that kind of a little bit awkward, like in previous viewings, but this time it's still very over the top. But it did actually make me feel very like, I just thought seeing anyone like just let off that kind of, you know, raw emotion, I totally believed it. You know, I was like, you know, it's embarrassing and it's awkward, but it's real. Like it's really real.
Yeah.
On the similar vein, when I remember first watching it when I was a teenager, and I wasn't a big fan of this film, and I was like, romance is for girls and all that. I wasn't emotionally mature enough to watch this film. And when I've started watching this again for us to talk about it today, the first maybe 25-30 minutes were a bit of a struggle, I'll be honest. The farce didn't really do it for me when the unconscious Argentinian falls through the ceiling, and then John Leguizamo is playing a dwarf, and I'm like, what is going on? What am I watching? And then like the opening.
You didn't drop acid, don't worry.
Well, exactly, yeah, but I felt like I did. I felt like I was taking absence with them, and they're all singing "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and like everything's just going so mental, and I was like, okay, stick with it. But
I'm way too sober for this movie.
Exactly, yeah. But by the end, when he does let out that wail, I was there with it. I was in the scene, and I was like feeling for him, and just like looking back at how I started to how I finished was like that's like
it's
sticking with it was worth it. Yeah, exactly. And it managed to like enthrall me so much that I was actually emotionally invested in the ending, and like when she does give out her final breath, and I was alongside with you going, gasping with her, and just thinking how like the journey I went on was such a roller coaster, like you said. So I've got to give it to the film for actually taking me and like convincing me of liking it, because like I wasn't sold at the beginning, but by the end I was. So yeah, I think that shows that the film's good and that I'm more emotionally mature. But I did interrupt you, Kerry. So
all I was going to say was the fact that you've got all these OTT performances, but they are just also lovable. Like, and to touch on what Matt was saying, it's like believable as well. So they could play them so big, but you still believe them. Like, I was happy to go along with Jim Broadbent's character. I was like, like in reality, who acts like that? No one. I mean, there might be people out there, I don't know, but in
Matt,
this, it's like
like a virgin touched
exactly.
for the
Sings
very
that so many times.
Yeah.
It's just all these little lines really stay with me. So like the bit where it's like, everything's going so well, all that. It's like, no one
I laughed out loud at the bit, where he has to make up the on the spot, when the Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman appear on the stage. He goes, it is the sitar player. That actually made me laugh out loud. I thought that was really good.
When he's at the end,
when he's improvising, yeah.
But even down to like Richard Roxburgh, who plays the Duke, and so he's like our evil character. I absolutely love him as well, his characterization. Like the bit in the Red Room when they're all trying to convince him that he needs to invest in Spectacular, where they all like turn and he's just there with his mustache and just goes, it's a little bit funny.
Yeah.
Feeling inside.
There's some great mustache acting going on in that.
And it's just like every moment like that is just beautiful. And I think what makes that work is the fact that they're so OTT, but then they have their sort of human moments. I think the best example is John Leguizamo, who, as Toulouse, is just got this like lisp, and he's like always like just throwing his arms around, and he's big and big and big. And then it gets to like the very end where the tragedy is just full on in play, and he just is just so quiet, and he's just talking to Christy and going, I know she loves you. I know it. I know she does. And it's that moment that you just go, oh, he's a real person. It's not a caricature or anything. And it just
I felt like
pulls at
really,
your heartstrings.
I felt really kind of sort of annoyed with myself that when I first watched this several years ago, thought that's John Leguizamo, but it can't be because he is not that versatile. Do you know what I mean? I said to myself, like, he can't play that part. And then
that's
I actually
Luigi from Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was in Land of the Dead. Like, what the hell's, what's going on? Like, the tough guy kind of thing and the happening and all that. But I just thought, that can't be him. It looks like him, but it can't be. Anyway, my point is, I think he's a really versatile actor, and I wish he had actually done more crazy, wacky stuff like this, because he's really good at it, and he just seems to get those kind of tough guy parts, doesn't he? It's a little bit monotonous.
To be fair, I felt the same with the Duke, because I'm so I had only seen him before in Van Helsing.
MI2.
Yeah, MI2, Van Helsing, and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I'm pretty sure he plays a bad guy in every one of them. But he actually comes across as quite sinister in them. Whereas this, he's got that accent, he's got that mustache, and he's just being made a fool of throughout everything.
The character sounds like that. It's so unique, that character.
Yeah.
It's really weird and wacky and strange. But it's like I've never seen a performance like that before or since.
It makes me wonder when he came up with that. Did he come up with that in rehearsal when they're all just like in their own costume, just chilling about with each other, or was it a case of as soon as they put the mustache on and the hat, is that when it came? I would love to have known the process of how he came up with that character, because
it's all in the tash.
I think it is. I think it must have been as soon as he put the tash on, he was just like, it's a little bit funny.
Yeah, when he realised you could twitch it slightly, to the camera, like just sort of lean up, and it's brilliant. It's such a joy.
Just everything that he says, it's just funny. I think I'd read or heard just about the Red Curtain, basically, and how it's called the Red Curtain trilogy and everything like that. The reason behind that is because he wants to, well, kind of what we were saying earlier, he wants to suck you in. You know, it's like you open the curtains and then he draws you in, and that's the kind of world that he wanted to create. So that's the idea behind the Red Curtain.
That's kind of part of the intro outro thing that I really liked. Obviously, in this film, like you said, the red curtain frames it, and then obviously you have that curtain close at the end and the little sort of miniature conductor and stuff. It's just so small and kind of like, it's just, I don't know, I absolutely adore that.
Yeah, so I love Moulin Rouge. It's great. I feel like everyone should watch it. Like, because like you said, Mike, like you were very much kind of like, no. And then you were sucked in by the end of it. So
I'm a convert,
I do feel you convert. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I do think, I know, Matt, you were saying that you prefer some of the other ones of Baz Luhrmann, but for me, it's definitely Moulin Rouge and Strictly Ballroom that's up there.
I will watch Strictly Ballroom now that you've recommended it, so I appreciate your recommendation, and thank you for reintroducing us to Moulin Rouge.
And we'll talk Strictly Ballroom.
We will, and then you can be our Baz Luhrmann go-to.
So that's all from Leah, Matt and myself today, so thank you very much for joining us, Leah. Would you like to plug your pluggables?
Of course, I would love to. So you can also find me because I do a little bit of dabbling in the presenting. So if you're into walking, I'm actually a presenter on Walks Around Britain. So give them a follow on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll probably see my face every now and again. That is also on Amazon Prime if you happen to have that subscription. So you can see me in a few episodes on there. And then also I followed my passion for dance and musicals, and I'm a dance fitness instructor. So I do a brand which is called Broadway Boogie. It's basically a dance fitness workout for 45 minutes, and it's to all your favourite musicals. So Mike, Matt, get on a Friday and Sunday.
Yeah,
have a little
right.
boogie.
That's what we're doing next week. Can't wait.
Oh my god, that sounds way up my street, and I'm only slightly kidding.
Can it beat a South Park the musical?
You never know, it might turn up. As soon as I get that in there, I'll give you a bell.
Amazing.
Shut your fucking face, Uncle Fucker. to dance.
2, 3, 4.
In my leotard.
So yeah, if you'd like to hear more from us, subscribe to our channel and be sure to like this video, as well as Leah's online dance show, Broadway Boogie. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter by searching for the name Matt and Mike Pull Focus. Say goodbye, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
Say goodbye, Leah.
Goodbye, Leah.
And that's goodbye from me. Goodbye.
She got it!